You know what really sucks and pisses me off to no end? The RV industry, including manufacturers, factories, OEMs, suppliers, dealers, service people. Doesn't matter what type either. It can be travel trailers, toy haulers, fifth wheels, motorhomes. Companies like Brinkley, Grand Design, Forest River, Coachman, Alliance, Winnebago, Thor. You name a company, you name a type of RV, you name a dealership, a manufacturer, they don't give a damn about the environment. Don't give two shits. And they only care about corporate profits. Well, at least that's what some of social media and the internet want you to believe. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, John Livingston, aka the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. Now, I want to give credit to RVbusiness.com. This is a well done article that gives a more centered approach and a lot less of the propaganda machine that it seems to always turn out. So let's give them credit where credit's due. And I will link this in the description box below so you can read the entire article, as I'm basically going to skim through it as we talk. Now, one quick announcement before I do all that. This is the end of season 5 of the podcast. Season 6 will start the first week of March. I got a lot of surprises for you. And by the way, if you think that RV quality is such horrid, just horror stories, horrible, you never buy an RV ever again, you want to stick around because I got an interesting segue for you into... not a segue. I got an interesting segment for you that you'll enjoy, so stick around, okay? All right, so the title of this is Environmental Group Targets RV Industry with Billboards. Mighty Earth ramps up campaign to tackle deforestation in RV industry. Mighty Earth, a global advocacy organization, unveiled 6 new billboards across northern Indiana's Elkhart and St. Joseph's County. Wow, I can't talk today. As part of its ongoing campaign targeting leading RV manufacturers, according to a release. The billboards feature an artistic display of RVs ripping through orangutan habitat and the phrase, "RVs shouldn't kill orangutans," aimed to spotlight a core campaign demand that major RV companies end their use of timber linked to deforestation and the destruction of habitat of critically endangered Bornean orangutans in Indonesia's rainforest. Pardon me if I botched that. Didn't mean to. Now I'll let you read through the rest, okay? It basically is telling you that there is a commonly known type of wood called Meranti that's been used in the industry since the 1970s. Basically, they're saying that the wood backing to some of the fiberglass is basically from Indonesia. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert at this, all right? But what I will say, especially today, I was on the phone for not a whole long time, but a little while with an actual high-ranking official or high-ranking executive at an RV manufacturer. No, I'm not going to tell you who it is. No, I'm not going to tell you why. But we had an interesting conversation about marketing and social media. And when I read this article, I'm like, if the RV manufacturers really didn't give a shit about the environment, didn't give two craps, then why would they continue to try to evolve green energy or alternative energy if you're Billy Bob Thornton, right? Why would they continue to try to go down the path of eliminating propane? I want you to hear that again. Why would they be going down the path for the last 15 years of trying to eliminate propane out of just RVs in total? I did a video a while back ago, I think it was probably 2-3 years ago, that was talking about the end of the propane electric refrigerator in the RV industry. And yes, this does have something to do with deforestation, so just be patient. There's context. Okay. And a lot of it had to do with availability, but there were a lot of folks that I talked to on the factory side that were like, it's more efficient, bigger fridges, easier to replace. What it took to keep those propane electric refrigerators going, replacing them when they go bad, because eventually the core goes bad, not a good thing. So in conjunction with that, you have to have something that charges the batteries, etc., etc., etc. If these folks were that interested in eliminating this type of timber used in fiberglass work or the construction of the actual travel trailers or fifth wheels or motorhomes or cabinetry, etc., etc., do you know that a guy like Nate Goldenberg or Doug Gettard or Bob Martin, Bill Martin, the Brady boys over at Alliance, Pablo at Genesis Supreme, do you know if they all knew about this, that every one of them would look at it not only as something that would be pro-environmental, but do you know what kind of marketing strategy that would be? Think about that. Let's say it cost them an extra $500 in material. $500 per unit. Just as an example. I don't know what the real number is, but let's just say that. It's $500 of marketing saying, hey, our travel trailer is Indonesian timber free. We are not going to be a part of putting an endangered species out of existence. Do you know the power of that? Do you know that's a great story at a dealership for a salesperson to tell consumers? Hey, by the way, you know these orangutans are going out extinct. They're an endangered species. And we don't deal with any timber from Indonesia because of these orangutans' habitats. You know, it's like the whole NHTSA thing. You know, everybody wants NHTSA to we got to have more control from the federal government. Yeah, you're just going to jack up the whole system, and NHTSA is not going to do anything about the RV industry. It's 400,000 units a year or less. It's a whole different world, right? So it's just very interesting to see. And you know, I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm an independent voter, always have been, always will be. You can't convince me otherwise. I vote for common sense, okay? Common sense would tell me if I'm an advocacy group, at some point, if I can afford to put 6 billboards all over Indiana with artistic flair, I can get in to see Doug Gettard. I can get in to see Bob Martin, Nate Goldenberg, Don Clark. I can get my foot in the door over there and have a conversation. You know, the biggest issue with nonprofit and advocacy groups, and it's not an issue that is moral. It is an issue of there are rules and regulations put in for nonprofits where you have to spend money. So instead of moving forward with conversation face to face with Jason Lippert or whoever the heads of I call it the heads of the 5 families, right? That's gonna be my new terminology. I'm gonna start going to Godfather terminology and say the heads of the 5 families. Instead of getting in front of these guys and going, hey, you know, I know not a lot of it's made, but it's enough where it's making an impact. I'll tell you, once one does it, they all do it. If Brinkley tomorrow said, we're not going to use any timber on anything from Indonesia, I guarantee you that the entire industry do the same thing. If Rockwood Flagstaff, they do the same thing. If Alliance did it, everybody do the same thing. It's Pete and repeat. It's RV stands for, or research and R&D stands for research and duplicate. Okay? So, if anybody thinks, and here's another thing I don't talk about a lot. I don't talk about this a lot. But one thing I learned from working on the manufacturer side of the industry as a rep, which I miss being a rep. But anyway, a little bit more on that a little bit later. They are required to watch how much scrap they have. So if you notice, if you go into Grand Design or Mobile Suites or any of the manufacturers, Brinkley, Forest River, Winnebago, and you go into specific brands, you notice all the cabinetry is pretty much the same size. The bathrooms are identical. The bedroom setups are identical. This is to reduce scrap. You'll notice that there's the top and bottom, or the top or bottom of a bathroom door or an entry door inside the trailer or the motorhome looks like it doesn't fit right. It looks like there's a gap. And of course, people make fun of it. Oh, it's for airflow. No, that's bullshit. It's because they order all the same door because it's more efficient manufacturing wise and it limits how much scrap you have. So if they didn't care about the environment, why would they limit how much scrap they have? I remember being at Plant 120 and Plant 121 in Michigan. And this is a Forest River and Coachman plant for small travel trailers. And I remember when I was there, the several times I was there, it was always like, okay, we can't have that. If there was waste, it was talked about. It was discussed in the morning meeting if there was too much excessive waste. And it wasn't like, oh, there's a big pile. No, it was, the pile was even remotely visible. We used to make jokes. The reason why you find a bunch of screws and extra pieces of stuff inside trailers and stuff is because the factory guys don't want to be screamed and yelled at about scrap. Don't know if that's true, but it's still a funny joke. Okay. And I do miss I miss working on the factory side. I miss being a rep, traveling around the US and Canada, and I miss doing that. You know, I know a lot of guys hated it or put up with it because the money's pretty okay. Hasn't been okay for a couple of years now, but it used to be okay. I loved it. I enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoyed being on the road and meeting new dealers, going to shows, talking to people. I do miss those days. Miss those days a lot. Anyway, so for those of you that feel like RV quality is just absolute dog shit, it's horrible. First thing I want to mention is that people make this assumption that I hate Liz Amazing, or I'm afraid of Liz Amazing, or the industry's afraid of Liz Amazing. I'll be very upfront with you guys. I don't hate her. I want to make that clear. I see a lot of emails and direct messages I'm getting on Instagram and TikTok. You guys all think like I'm against this woman. I'm not. I have said for now, this is year 4, that it would be sad and very, very bad for the industry if she suddenly retired and stopped doing it. I may not agree with her. I may not agree with her style. Hell, I might not even actually agree with most of what she says, because most of what she says is more attention seeking than anything else. And there's a reason behind it. As you guys can tell, I've changed the way I've been formatting this podcast because I've learned from her. So she's not a bad thing to the industry. She's actually a good thing. What is bad about Liz Amazing is not Liz Amazing, but that the amount of money she makes attracts a certain type of faceless AI driven bullshit channels, which I'm going to cover at the beginning of season 6 coming up next week. Haven't been able to get to it this week, but I'm going to react to a lot of those videos. And what people don't realize is she doesn't charge anybody to do this. It's free money. It's low-hanging fruit just sitting there. YouTube is free money when it comes to ad revenue. I've experienced some decent ad revenue with my animation and my comedy channel. So my animation and my comedy channel got demonetized, like a lot of people's did, because YouTube's going through a big old thing. It's going to come back. But, I've made decent money. I made $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 for posting 8, 10, 20, 30, 40-second videos, making jokes and comedic stuff and animation and just farting, fooling around, having a good time. So it's not like people are paying her or the industry are paying her or anything like that. It's free money. But it can be addicting to folks when they see it. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about these AI channels that have spawned because of her. Now, when it comes to RV quality, okay, I want you guys to realize that I grew up in the late 80s through the 90s, early 2000s. So I'm very much a pre-social media baby. I was a Nintendo NES child, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. I was still I'm probably, and a lot of you guys are, the last group of kids that rode our bicycles and had to be home when the streetlights came on. RVs have been built the same, for the most part, structurally for 40 years. There's been improvements in manufacturing, but for the most part, they've been assembled and built pretty similarly for the last 40 years. But social media and the ability to get paid making videos, making content, has only been around since, or prevalent for maybe the last decade. Our social media in the RV industry was the campfire. And the RV industry is not the only industry that is facing this. Okay? As I said, I talked to a high-ranking executive at an RV manufacturer today, spent some time talking, and we'll probably talk more as we go along. And one of the interesting things he asked me was, what is my end goal? And I'm like, I don't have an end goal. I said, I just want to give a more centered approach to things than having the stupid pendulum. Because there is a centered approach to everything. But I had to change though, and I told him I had to change my format though, because I'm never going to stop the negative Nancys and negative Karens and negative Chads, or whatever you want to call them, from being mad and angry at the industry. But I need them in order to push the videos through the algorithm. Proof positive, if you go look at TikTok, 3 of my videos have over 500,000 views. These podcast episodes have over 500,000 views in 1 week. Half of them, you can tell, never made it past 45 seconds, commented and liked the page, shared it, and favored it. I need those people because they're the ones that push the algorithm to flood the internet with the video. And he's like, he just was quiet. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, the first minute of every video, it's setting up a statement that is made by basically the internet, basically by folks that are either angry, paid, etc., etc. Going back to what I was saying about simplicity, if you go back to 1995, 96, 97, the RV industry didn't use standard 12-volt fridges with big solar setups, big inverters, lithium batteries, washer dryer combos and travel trailers, or small lightweight fifth wheels. I was thinking about the John Crane Fleetwood days. I like John. I thought John was an awesome guy. Got to meet him towards the beginning of my career. And I was thinking, man, that Bounder was so simple. Safari was so simple. The Simba was such a simple motorhome. Jamboree, Forest River Sunseeker, the Coachman Freelander. There were so much simpler times, and the only time things got more residential was when they got heavier and bigger. Your Beaver motorhome, your older Tiffins, your Tetons, your carriages. When you started getting bigger, badder residential stuff, it was a heavier fifth wheel, a heavier motorhome, and they weren't the norm. They were a small niche product that has turned into what people normally want, but they don't want to spend the money on the truck. So what did the industry do? They started stripping out real wood out of the fascias, out of the cabinetry. And I always say the craftsmanship of the cabinetry and the fascia and all that stuff, I agree, they're shit, they're garbage, get it. But they have to lighten the load on a lot of this stuff to add all this extra amenities that is now a requirement of you, the consumer, you, the RVer. First question everybody asks me on every trailer, every camper, every fifth wheel, does it have solar? Does it have a washer dryer? First questions. Do you put lithium batteries in it? Not a question of, why don't they use real wood in the coach on the cabinetry? So it was a simpler time. So if you're talking about, you're talking about in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, there were less moving parts. Fact of life. There were less moving parts, less electrical things all being hooked up. Roads were in better shape. We maintained things better. My grandfather's generation was all about taking care of their stuff. Maintenance, pairing packs, brake inspections, roof inspections, spending the money every year to maintain their car, their boat, their motorhome, their fifth wheel, their travel trailer. We are in a generation or a world where we want to pick it up off the dealership lot, drive it off, and nothing ever goes wrong. And that's simply not the case of what's going to happen. Trucks, cars. I mean, I've made all kinds of meme videos about truck ownership, and no one's immune. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. Thank you, everyone, for your absolute continued support of the podcast. I actually want to thank the manufacturers too, including Brinkley, because I think we're getting to a point in the industry where I think that the days of thinking like a dinosaur are finally starting to come to an end. And I believe that we will get more transparency from the industry over the next 10 years. And the problem is, and I you know what? The guy I talked to today said it perfectly. If people, and this is, and he quoted, if people are offended by what you say on the manufacturing side, then they're idiots. Until next time, remember, RV always stands for toolkit and sense of humor.